So, my name is Georgina Norris. I'm the marketing lead for Penguin Productions, and we are here with our brewers for our Frenzy 8-pack. So, if you want to go down the table and introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name's Greg Snyder with Birdfish Brewing Company out of Columbiana.
My name is Adam Keck with Modern Methods Brewing Company in Warren, Ohio.
I'm Ira with Noble Creature out of Youngstown, Ohio.
Perfect.
Hey everyone, this is Richard and Aspasia from Penguin City Beer, and I am going to be interviewing Richard for the Federal Frenzy video.
Oh yeah.
All right. So tonight we're at Westside Bowl, and we're going to talk about some of the beers that are going to be featured in our 8-pack that we should have received. So you want to start with your first one?
Yeah, sure.
So name, a little
yeah,
brief
so one of the beers that will be in the Frenzy 8-pack collection will be Birdfish's Red Flag Penguin Pilsner. It's a 5% Pilsner, clean, crisp. We collaborate with YSU on this one, and we raise money for the Penguin Club. So each year when we tap it, we do a $1 pint night. So $1 for every pint that we pour that night goes back to the Penguin Club, and also 4-packs that we sell. We raise money for the Penguin Club as well. So, it's important for us if we can support local and do that. That's our consumers, is the local consumers as well. Not only just Columbiana, but Youngstown area and beyond. So, so it's a clean, crisp, just a good drinking, light 5% Pilsner.
Gotcha. And what's your other one?
And our other one is a hazy pale ale. It's a 5% pale ale, and it's called the Park IPA. It's also 5%. And the story behind this one is we call it the Park IPA because we actually collaborate with Firestone Park in Columbiana. And as well, $1 per pint that's poured in the brewery goes back into a side fund. And we've actually raised money to put in a disc golf course at Firestone Park. So should be finalized here this month, and hopefully we'll be getting the chains in next month. And so 2021, you'll be able to come down to Birdfish, park your car, grab a beer, go over, play 9 holes, and finish up at the brewery. So
Outside, distanced?
Yep.
That's what we like to hear.
Yeah, that's right.
So, tell me what the 2 beers we have put in the Federal Frenzy pack.
Let me tell you let me just tell you what they are. I'm going to tell you the names. We have our Penguin City Beer, Penguin City Beer Light.
And can you tell me a brief description of these 2 beers?
So the Penguin City, it's our original. It's a crisp golden ale. Really wanted to just have a beer that represents the pride and the people of the valley. It's a little bold. I don't know, it's just nice. Have one, see what you think.
And the Penguin City Light?
Well, the Penguin City Light, it's an American light beer. It's lighter in alcohol, calories, and carbs. You could say it's similar to the Penguin City beer, but it isn't a watered down, scaled version of it. It is a completely different recipe. Try that one as well. See what you think.
So, Modern Methods, you will be receiving 2 beers from us. I only brought one of them tonight. That would be Darlene. Darlene is also a crisp, clean lager beer, and it actually says right on the can. So I think Greg may have been looking over at our can when he was talking about his Pilsner. Both excellent.
My marketing guy told me to say that. So.
Both excellent lager beers. Darlene's kind of our flagship lager. It's brewed in the pre-prohibition style, so it's got a little bit of corn in the grist that'll lighten the body a little bit. Clocks in at 5.5%. And yeah, Darlene, for a long time while our tap room was humming, we actually had a 10-barrel tank in our cold room that was just our Darlene tank. So we hooked that right up to the taps because the people of Warren love it so much. The other beer, which I did not bring, is Riot Girl. So that's a hazy rye IPA. It is a collaboration, supports the Pink Boot Society. which aims to get is a nonprofit that aims to get more women into the brewing industry. So a portion of all sales of that go to that organization. And we also use the Pink Boots Society hop blend for 2021. I cannot remember the 4 hops that are in it. You can read it on the label, but that rye in it kind of kicks up like the tropical notes of the beer. So you're gonna get kind of tropical on the nose, a little bit of bitterness, and just a really nice hazy rye IPA that we're super happy with, and hopefully you are too.
Did you guys use malted rye in that?
It was flaked rye. Yep.
I had it. It was super good. Fresh out of the tank. It's delicious. So
Thank you, Ira.
thank you.
It's kind of you.
Thank you.
Hey, Darlene is clean and crisp.
Thank you. I'll hand it off to you there, Ira.
Yeah. Ira with Noble Creature. Crazy story, but we actually have very crispy and clean
There's a
lager
pattern
as
here.
well. Yes. We got Youngstonian, so this is it's a super light lager. It's about 4.5%, so it's not quite as heavy. We do some like weird things with this. It's about 25% flaked rye. Talking about Darlene, so we use a lot of rye in this. Not that you can like pick it out in this beer as much since it's such a small grist, but it's just we wanted to shoot for just like a really light, easy drinking, American lager. So we use some traditional noble hops in this, and then we also use some American hops on like a really small scale. So it's like a little floral, just like a touch of citrus, but it's a really light, easy drinking beer. Yeah, so this is one of our favorite beers to drink at the brewery. We just canned this up yesterday and today, so it's like super fresh. We're really excited about this batch. We keep tweaking it here and there, but yeah, it's like that was kind of like one of our goals when we started the brewery was to make like a really awesome, super easy drinking beer for the city of Youngstown. So we're really happy with it, and it's been like kind of like the most like niche like picked over beer that we've done from day one. So we're very excited about this batch and excited for you guys to try it. But yeah, so we got Youngstonian, and then we have Basement Darts. So this is very traditional ESB. So this is like an English style bitter. Pretty simple beer too, but it's good. Just got all English base malt, and then check it out. Take a look.
Want to try it?
Yeah, back it up.
I'm a big
so
English
we just
beer fan.
canned this yesterday, actually. So there's some Fuggle hops in there, and there is oh my god, what's the other hop?
Goldings?
Yeah, EKG. We don't do a lot of English beers, but we're really excited about this beer too. So pass it down. So this is Basement Darts. So we're it's only 5.5%, so it's nothing crazy, but it's another easy drinking beer for spring and summer. It's got a little more malt character. We use a traditional floor malted, what they call Maris Otter. So it's basically just like a type of grain that's grown over there that they malt, on the floors, like very old school. So we're really happy about this. We thought they'd go well with all the other delicious beers in Youngstown and Mahoning and Columbiana County and Trumbull County. So yeah, I don't know. We're pretty pumped about these 2 beers, and I think it's going to be a great 8-pack. So.
All right, so my next question is, you guys are all from the local area, but you have your little specialty sections. So why did you choose the industry you did? You could have sold anything in this area. Why do you think that you wanted to start beer? But you can brew on it.
Because beer is good.
Do you have any background? Do you have any personal connection to it?
So kind of my backstory. So I went to Marietta College for petroleum engineering, and was in the oil and gas industry for 10 years. So I've been a lot of chemistry and all that through my college career, and then engineering, and through the 10 years I had there. But I've worked for big corporations, and I've traveled a lot, and so we started as home brewers. It's myself, 2 brother-in-laws and cousins that own the brewery. So there's just the 4 of us, and I could never have started a brewery with my own family. People always ask, well, how are you in business with family? Well, it wouldn't be with my 4 brothers, I could tell you that. But we were friends before we were ever family. So, we grew up together. Went to South Range local. So, we lived right outside Columbiana. Never traveled down there. I mean, my dad wasn't into antiques, and that's all it ever was buses of people coming in and out for antique shops. And so really didn't have any experience with the town. And but we were brewing all the time. So I was actually living in West Virginia at the time. And so I'd come home and we'd be brewing in Jared's garage. And, you could still just you're always going to remember those days, because especially in the wintertime, you roll up and there's the coal burner in there. You can smell the coal, and then you can smell the mash. And it was just, just people gathering together, just creating good beer and creating memories. And so that kind of it was one of those things where people were like, hey, you should do something with this. You should start a brewery. And, there wasn't really anything at the time around the area. And so we're like, well, Josh, he's the oldest out of the group. He's like, well, we got to do it before I turn 30 or whatever. So we're like, all right, well, so we came upon the space in Columbiana. It was right on Main Street, just a small little, I think it was an antique shop at one point, a tattoo parlor at one point, and it was, available, and we had been looking for a space for like a year and a half. And it was getting to the point where it was like, this isn't going to happen. And we all have our day jobs, and it was like, you know what, we'll just keep brewing beer as a hobby, and that's all it'll ever be. And then we came upon this space, and we're like, you know what, I grew up in the pizza industry. My dad started G's Pizza World, so I had a little background of, owning, growing up in a family-owned business. But it was like, well, if we're going to do it, we need to do it. So basically we signed on that dotted line, not knowing what we're getting into. I mean, we did some research to see, the licenses and everything like that, but really not knowing what we were getting into. And, kind of our model was, because there was nothing like that around the area, was to start small, build our brand, build who we are, let people know who Birdfish is, and kind of just see if it works out and grow from there. So that's what we did. We started with a 1-barrel system on Main Street, brewing 31 gallons at a time. The beer we brewed on premises, that was 5 taps. You could only get it right there at the tasting room. And started building kind of that culture for that area. And, people coming in, well, I like beer, and, you have to build their palate, and, because some aren't going to just jump into a, double IPA or, a stout or anything like that. But it's cool to see now, 5 years later, that those people, you got 12 beers on tap now, and, they'll try and drink every single one. So, it was kind of a leap of faith and the unknown. And then it started growing and growing and growing. And then, Jared quit his day job to kind of go full time to keep up with brewing on the 1-barrel. Mm-hmm. And then we, it just got to a point where we were growing faster than we knew what to do with. So that's when we expanded to our 7-barrel brew house. And so we went from 31 gallons to 215 gallons at a time brewing. So, that helped with not only getting some distribution out, but also kind of keeping up with the tasting room. Then we opened a second tasting room. And so we had actually 2 different tasting rooms where we had what we called the up top and the down low. And so the up top on the 1-barrel, we were still doing, because we love pushing the limits and trying new things. So that's kind of the laboratory of where we were trying all kinds of different things. And then down low, kind of your flagship beers and your bigger batches that were going out for distribution were brewed on the 7-barrel. So, and then, through the pandemic, businesses getting shut down, bars, restaurants getting shut down, we're brewing 31 gallons at a time, and everything we brewed there stayed there. So it business-wise, it just didn't make sense to hold on to that space. So we ended up kind of getting rid of that space, and now we're solely down at the down low, the larger space. We have a big tasting room down there, and we've expanded our production there as well to handle distribution and packaging and all that to bars, restaurants, retailers, bottle shops, and grocery stores and all that. So, it was, taking that leap of, and that's kind of where I left the oil and gas industry to kind of jump into this full time. I have 2 kids and a wife, and, thank God my wife's a nurse. So, at the time she was carrying the insurance, so it made it a little bit easier to make that jump, but it was still a little scary, doing what you've done for 10 years and, jumping over there. But, if you look at the business itself in the industry, I think they just said that state of Ohio is ranked 5th in the nation for production in craft beer. So, it's awesome to see that our manufacturing industry of craft beer has grown the way it does. I think a big part of that is the push for local. Like, a brewery opens up into a small town and everybody is pushing for support local. And like, we do everything we can to, work with other local businesses, local farms. We have, Yerian Malt that grows 85-90% of the barley that we use in most of our beers. It's grown 3 minutes down the road. So, like, working with local businesses to keep everything in the community itself is healthy for the community. It just grows the community. So it's it's different, being on this side kind of full time, but it's if I get upset or, want to tell my boss off, it's a lot easier. Just look myself in the mirror and be like, but yeah, so it's good. It's different. It was nice to get out of the corporate world, and kind of be an entrepreneur and kind of grow a business. So
sounds like you were dealt with good hands.
Yeah.
Just keep running with it.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Modern Methods. Why did you choose this industry?
So my background is I graduated college. I went away to the East Coast and actually wanted to come back to do like community organizing. And so came back from Rhode Island in 2009, and really I worked for an organization that, knocked on doors in neighborhoods. And I actually wanted to work in Youngstown. I got there because, Youngstown 2010 was going on and like all this energy behind revitalization. And I got there and my boss was like, hey, I know you really want to work in Youngstown and you're really passionate and you have an apartment here now and like you're going to work in Warren. I was like, okay, that's cool. Like, yeah, whatever. And so, really started working in Warren then, and kind of just like fell in love with the town. I worked at that organization for 4 years. About 2 years into it, I started getting into homebrewing with my dad and my brother. And probably about batch 3, like it was already like escalating and scaling up, and I was like, this could be something. Like I'd had hobbies before, and that's kind of like my personality is I can't just like get into something. I can't dip my toe in. Like I can't just play guitar. Like I want to start a band with everybody. I can't just like play video games. I want to like be a competitive FPS gamer. Like for whatever, those usually just like work themselves out. Like brewing, it just stuck. So quickly kind of started brewing, 4, 5, 6 times a month. Like, and then, I still have like part of a value of our company is like, we love it. It's like a love letter to the city of Warren. Like the name Modern Methods comes from this sign that was on the city hall back in 1909 that said, opportunity, it's here. Warren is the city of modern methods. So kind of shifting that mentality that like maybe activism isn't the only way to improve your community. Maybe starting a manufacturing company that makes beer and brings people together and creates community space could also be a way to build community and improve the place that we love and that we live in. So kind of switched careers, figured if I was going to start a business, I should get a little bit of industry experience. So started working in IT at Compco Industries down in Columbiana. Actually got to know these guys a bit, like going to, what's the homebrew shop down there? and cigar shop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Carmen's.
Yeah.
Did a couple beer tastes with
The
these
plaza.
guys down at Carmen's in the plaza.
Yeah.
Actually, when I left Compco to go start Modern Methods, is like right when you guys. It was like the week that I left, like you guys opened your tap room, and started writing the business plan, and probably about 2017, like took our first. We did all of the money or all of the fundraising, like private investment. So, basically grassroots, like small dollar, kind of $5,000 at a time. Raised the money to open our brewery and tap room on Dave Grohl Alley in downtown Warren, and so I guess since then we've expanded, we've doubled our our production capacity, grown our staff to about 10, full and part time right now. Weathered the pandemic the same way these guys have, figuring out a way to take our beer out of divert from kegs into these cans and. Really have grown there. So I guess the industry didn't really choose me, or I didn't choose it in a way it kind of chose me. And I think we could probably all agree at one point you're just sitting there watching this bubbling cauldron and thinking about what that's going to become, and then you taste it and you're like, this is good, but what if this kind of passion for creating the perfect pint, which doesn't exist, or I haven't done it yet, at least. I think that's why we appreciate the craft and the culture around it. I'll speak for myself. I don't know. You guys might just be in it for the money.
For sure.
All the money that's in it.
Yeah.
And why did we choose to get in the industry?
It's just something I care about. I've been a fan of beer and interested in different styles and all kinds of beer-related things for quite some time.
I don't know. It was a weird thing. I never knew anything about craft beer, honestly, until I was probably in my junior year of college, and my dad had some friends that were into craft beer. But back then, it wasn't a huge thing. There wasn't a microbrewery in every town, every little city. So it was still pretty new. And, in college, you used to just kind of not drinking great beer. My dad had this little party, and his coworker was super into craft beer. So he brought this Omegang Rare Voss, which I had never heard of before, and it was just this Belgian-inspired amber ale. And he's like, "Yeah, try this. You're old enough. Take a sip of this." And I was like, "Oh my God, that's I don't even know what that is, but it's not the beer that I'm used to drinking. This actually is amazing." So I was pretty much hooked at that point. And luckily, when I was in college, one of my professors was a home brewer, so we just kind of stumbled upon. I was like, "Yeah, I had this crazy beer. I don't know what it was." He was like, "Oh yeah, it was Omegang. It was amazing." So I'm like, "Yeah, well, what is that?" And he was like, "Yeah, this is how you do it." And my dad was like, "Yeah, you take barley and you malt it and you make." I'm like, "How do you take grain and make beer?" It was my mind was blown. So I was like, "All right, I got to figure this out." So I just I worked in after college. I worked up near Edinburgh for a while, and worked on some sculpture stuff, what I went to school for, and hooked up with some great friends, Brian and Minnie Sprague from Sprague Farms, and they had just started a brewery when I was kind of finishing up college. So I went up there, hung out with them, and they're just they were super enthusiastic and just great people. And they're like, "Yeah, we just got this brewery. It's in a farm. This is what we do." And my dad's, "Yeah, you just, take barley, malt it, and make beer." I'm like, "Okay." So I got really into it at that point in time, and that place was great up there. So I started home brewing after that. After I kind of left that area, and I was like, the first batch of homebrew I made, I was like, "Oh man, this is I gotta keep up with this," because it's I remember Marcy, my wife, was she's like, "You changed the recipe, didn't you?" I was like, "Yeah, I read a little bit. I had to throw some stuff in there," and I was like, hooked right there. So I don't know, just got super into it and read as much as I could. Ended up going back up to Sprague Farms, where I kind of met Brian and Minnie, and like they had like a pretty decent sized brew house up there, and they had like a 65-acre farm. They started like trying to grow their own barley there and grow their own hops, and it was like just like this whole experience of like, oh my god, like everything that makes this beer is basically like here right now. And I was kind of like, this is crazy. So ended up just like hanging out there enough that I could like start working, not really working, just making beer and like hanging out with the brewer. And then I was just like, yeah, we got to do this. So I met Marcy, and we ended up moving to Youngstown, and that was kind of like, but that vibe of like that farm brewery, like things are grown here. This is kind of like, this is how it works. Like if you can grow your own barley, grow your own hops. I started playing around with culturing up wild yeast while I was there, which was like a kind of like a big inspiration to kind of what we're doing now at Noble Creature. But that was like I was just like, we got to do this. I mean, this is what I want to do. So, I mean, there's so many different things. You get so many different people of different like backgrounds and fields that are just like, hey, yeah, I went to school for engineering, I went to school for art, I went to school for whatever,
English literature.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and they kind of like come together around this thing right here that's in your little glass, and you're just like, I think it's just like it's amazing, and I think it's like Adam was talking about, people getting together, coming out, having a pint together at a pub, like that was kind of like the idea. Is like we want people to get together. It's not, we don't want people sitting apart in tables. Like you just come in, talk to people, hang out, and you get to meet new people. And that's what kind of sucked about last year, is we didn't get to do that quite as much. I won't get into that too much, but it was just like, that was like the whole vibe. The whole idea was like, hey, yeah, we make this product. It's from like locally sourced ingredients, and you come together. It's a community-based thing. It's a pub, it's a pub. So you get together and hang out, and that was always exciting to me, because just like meeting new people, and never would have met these guys. So you're always pushing the boundaries. We're always trying to do different things, and like between the three of us, I know for sure, like we all make like a crispy light lager, but it's like they're all totally different. Mm-hmm. So and it's just like different water, different ideas about it. You can make the same style of beer, but like one brewery is going to make it different, and like it's just really exciting to see that like culture in this area for sure, because like when we were here, there really wasn't any. When we moved here, there wasn't a whole lot of that. So we were like, this is really exciting times for us, and exciting. We're super happy to be a part of everything that's going on right now. So.
Well, that kind of leads me into my next question. Since I'm the beginner, can you give me a general overview of the process? So you said you moved here for the raw materials and whatnot, and how does it get from the raw materials to our cups? Just a general.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Okay. We'll go backwards this time.
So I guess that was like one of the main reasons why I got like hooked at Sprague Farms, because they did have a farm there, and like there was our great friend Joel, who worked at Penn State Barron, who kind of like, he was working on that. That was kind of like his project. He was an agronomist for Penn State, and he kind of like used that as kind of like his little thesis program. And basically that was super insightful, because he, they would like mow down and plant and till and care for like, they'd pick out like 5 acres at a time. They would like plant their own barley, like different varieties of barley. Some didn't work, some worked okay. And then like the barley was like one thing, but then like the whole malting process, where you kind of like take it from, like the seed to, where you kind of modify the grain enough to get it to beer, to ready to make, ready for the brew house. That was like the most exciting part to me, because like it's not like you're just taking like raw stuff, throwing it in water, and you get beer out of it. But there was a whole process of malting, and then from there like kilning and drying the malts, and I just kind of get like, it's just, there's so many different types of like malts and base malts, and it could be from all one type of barley. It could be from wheat, it could be from rye, or rice, whatever. There's so many different areas of like growing and malting, and then going from there as far as like the base malt goes. So that's I kind of got really into that, and I actually like built a kiln at Sprague's, for better for worse. Turned out not so great, but
I remember you
had a
telling me
little
about that.
explosion. It's not no big deal, but yeah, we built like a drum roaster, and we malted everything. So what you're doing when you're malting is basically you're kind of like taking the grain and you're like tricking it into thinking it's going to grow in springtime in the field. So you're adding water and oxygen and kind of like getting it ready to sprout. And what you're doing there is basically like the plant's breaking down, that seed's breaking down starches into sugars that it can use to grow, basically. And at some point you want to stop that, and kind of you're just like getting those enzymes in the barley ready to go into the malt house. But then the kilning part is you kind of like halt that, and then you kind of like toast it. So if you think of like a Pilsner would be like very low level of toast, and then like a dark lager would be kind of like you toast it a little bit more, and then you can go from there. You can make like very like crystallized malt, where it's kind of like raisiny, caramelly, things like that, and then there's so many other things that you can add to it. But that was the base for me. It was like Sprague's was very like malt focused brewery, which I was really glad that I got a chance to like experience that, because you kind of there's so many places to lose that along the way, especially these days when people are just throwing like pancakes in beer or or whatever. But I don't know.
You do you.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's how I got hooked on it, and
Well, so that would be like step one. The maltster
yeah.
malts the grain to send to us. And then our first step is to actually take that malt, which is kind of like the most efficient state of that seed, and with what like Ira said, like these enzymes that are ready to, with a little bit of hot water. Basically, we're taking hot water with that malted. First we're gonna crush that, because we want to crush it up into like the most the like tinier particles, so that we can kind of get the most bang for our buck out of that kernel of grain. So we're gonna crack it, not like flour, where flour is like pulverizing it and you've got these fine like tiny particles. You're basically cracking it. The husk of the barley kind of breaks it off, and then you've got cracked kernel essentially. So what we do then is take hot water, and we make a big batch of oatmeal essentially. You're mashing, we call that mashing in, and it looks like a big pot of porridge. And you're going to keep that. There's a lot of variability. Like you can keep it at a lower temperature to get like a drier beer, higher temperatures to keep some of those sugars like unavailable for fermentation and get like a sweeter beer. But we're going to hold it there for about an hour or so at, between 146 to 156, 160 degrees. And what happens is those enzymes start to break down, the enzymes denature break down those complex carbohydrates into simpler sugars.
Yeah, once you get to like a certain temperature, the enzymes that are kind of like inherent in that grain that would normally, as a plant, produce more sugars to grow the plant, kind of like they work inside the kernel, and then like they work at different temperatures. So like
if you want a more alpha.
Yeah, if you want if you want a sweet beer, you would like.
if you're looking at your beta, beta enzyme, is it beta amyl or beta?
Yeah, beta amylase.
Yeah, you're gonna want to go and that's way too the weeds.
But it's just really cool how you can manipulate this little like seed that's been kind of like grown, and then like the maltsters work on it, and then like they give it to the brewers, and we're like, ooh, what can we do with it?
Right.
Like, I don't know. I could make the same beer at two different mash temperatures and make two totally different.
I don't know if you wanted to go this deep in the weeds.
Yeah, sorry.
Good.
You can edit all
we're
this
not
out.
we're not quite done yet.
Yeah.
So then, and you can see it happen. Sorry. And we'll just rush through mashing into fermentation. Basically, it goes from like this cloudy, like starchy mess into this kind of clear, running, viscous, like concentrated sugary liquid that we call wort, which is just a weird German name that has has like carried over. That's what we call it. That wort is like just this concentrated, sugary.
It's like hot sweet tea.
Like hot sweet. You can also, the Germans have a tradition of, they pull the hot sweet wort off and then add a little bit of whiskey to it, or schnapps, whatever. That's called a wort toddy, and they're quite delicious, especially like.
So we do it every day. Yeah, no.
And then we take that, we boil it, add hops, flavorings, whatever, and then the most important phase, we're gonna sanitarily transfer that to a fermenter and pitch yeast. And at that moment, like the wort is ready to be transformed into beer by fermentation. And if you've done it all right, you've got it, and just your particular chosen microbes, because that's really like most of our job is like keeping containers clean and lines clean and everything. We're glorified janitors, essentially.
Yeah, we make like we try to extract sugar from this malt, and then just kind of tend to the yeast when the yeast
Keep the yeast happy.
Keep the yeast happy.
Well, Adam, you mentioned trying to find the perfect craft beer.
Mm-hmm.
How long would you say like a process was for like recipe wise?
So I mean, recipe
Trial and error.
Yeah, I mean it's ongoing. Like we just like Dub City IPA, our flagship West Coast. Like since day one, like we have been adjusting that. Not so much so that it's changing the beer completely, but like just minor tweaks, minor adjustments, like minor, hop, grain bill, everything. Like, so I would say like it's an ongoing process. Like where like the moment we get satisfied, like
You're like, man, let's brew it again.
yeah. Exactly. Let's.
That's so good.
And if I don't know, like my experience is you get satisfied and then you get like complacent with it, and then you start to hate it, and you're like, we can make this better,
Yeah.
So I think like that process, at least for me, is like always evolving, and you never actually make the perfect recipe.
Yeah, I mean that's what's so fun about it. I mean, it's like
But there's so many different variables that goes into. It's not just this is fixed, this is fixed, this is fixed.
Yeah, right.
We have the opportunity to change this. You can change this, and this, tweak it to get this.
Yeah.
And you could tweak it just a hair, and we might be able to catch up on it. But the consumer, by the time they have it and then have it again, they might not catch that tweak of what you made on that beer.
Oh yeah, and like some of those are like you talked about like the Aryan malts, like you're like 90% of your base malt. That's like 90% of like your beer that you make. It comes from this one farm in Columbiana, and you're like, you just made that choice. You're like, hey, we're just gonna use local malt, and like you could go from like a European malt, and you're like, you want to use local malt. So that's gonna like, it's gonna change things a little bit, but then you tweak it from there, and that's what's so cool about it. Now there's like so many local maltsters and hop growers that it's so fun to like meet these people.
Well, that's the other thing too is, I mean, it's, a lot of the ingredients we use is farming ingredients. So, climates change, things change. You have different, disasters or things that happen yearly to a farmer. So, we could say, okay, well, we put this recipe together this year. Well, 5 years from now, Citra hops that we used 5 years ago could be slightly different. We might still get it from the same hop farm, but the soil might have changed a little bit. The climate might have changed a little bit. So, like I said, there's so many different variables within the process that it's, it's not just, we're punching a hole in a piece of steel, which that doesn't really change. So but that's what I think keeps us going is, just the art and the craft of, coming up. And that's the other thing is just like, there's so much out there. Like there's just so many different varieties from stouts, porters, sours, double IPAs, pale ales, lagers, pilsners. I mean, there's just so much out there that, people come in all the time. Well, I don't really like beer. I like wine. Well, we do a lot of kettle fruited sours. Well, hey, try this. Wow, that's really good. Well, see, you do like beer. So, like, it's just, and that's, it's just crazy to see. It's fun to see that as well.
And I think you get like a lot more people that are like especially like a lot of these craft breweries that like are trying to really like use local ingredients and everything. Like there really is like a terroir of like, like this was grown this year at this farm, and like next year that's not going to be the same.
Right.
But like people, they get it and they get like the gist of it, and they get like all those wet hop beers that you guys do. It's like every year that's going to be totally different. But like it's so cool to like it's at some point it's hard to kind of like reach out to people and be like, you should try this, because like this is once and done. Like you're gonna get this taste this year and that's it, and like next year it's gonna be different. But I think it's cool that more people are getting into that and be like, hey, I had that fresh hop beer from Modern Methods or Birdfish, and like next year I'm excited to try it again. So
And it'll be completely different.
Yeah,
they'll be disappointed.
Because that's huge on when you talk about fresh hop beers. That's huge on the West Coast, because you got all the big boys out there that have it's third, fourth, fifth generation hop farmers. Where in Ohio you don't have that, but there are some local hop farms popping up here and there. So for us, we've that's kind of where our system came from, was Portland, Oregon. So when we were out there, it was harvest season. So we go out, and every bar, restaurant, brewery, they'd all have these fresh hop beers, and it's like we never experienced that before. But just the fresh, it is different. Like the beer is different. You're picking a cone off the vine, and within 24 hours you're brewing with those hops. To where the rest of the year you're bringing in dried out pelletized hops that you're using that have been picked the year before. So it's, but building, there's definitely an appreciation, and people are especially that consumer, that craft beer lover that tries it for the first time, and they're like, wow, yeah, that is different. So like building, again, it's something that you're bringing to the consumer in this area that has never been able to experience that really ever before.
So what are your favorite beers from other breweries?
I mean, there are lots and lots. I'll name a few. I like a lot of the foreign ones, like Rinkisku. It's a nice lager from Lithuania. Sierra Nevada. It's a U.S. beer, of course. Their pale ale, it's just a classic American pale ale. Love that one. Two Czech Pilsners that I really like are the Pilsner Urquell and Bitburger. Good Croatian lager is Karlovačko. Love that one. A delicious giant Polish lager, Żywiec. Delicious. And then not too far from here is a place called Canada. I'll reach for a Carling's Black Label once in a while. And then it seems like it's just down the road, where it's everywhere you go in Pittsburgh, I See Light, and possibly in Iron City. I mean, that's like a few out of thousands.
Well, I actually have a Conduit, which from Noble Creature is one of my favorite beers, and Westside Bull happens to have it on tap right now. And I think that might be my favorite beer of yours.
Thank you. I like it. It's okay.
So my Noble Creature favorite beer, I think, is it Fox Feathers?
Oh, okay.
So
Brett Sour Ale.
It's a Brett Sour Saison. Is it a Saison? So
basically, most of our sours are Saison.
So it's but it has like turmeric, and it has cayenne pepper, and it's got ginger.
Yeah.
And just the complexity. That when you read the can label, it's like, holy smokes, this is going to explode. And then when you taste it, it's like, you start picking those things out, and it's just like, wow, this is, it's sauce.
I got to say, I'm going to need some more of that Park IPA, because that's one of my favorites from Birdfish.
I was going to say, is that your favorite?
It's one of my favorites.
What's your favorite?
You guys did some crazy barrel-aged sour one point in time. I don't remember what it was, but
we've had a bunch of those.
It was the used the Rip Sip Van Winkle.
Sip Van Winkle?
Yeah,
that was one.
Yeah. Was it the raspberry fruited sour?
Yeah, dude.
And we put you on
Figure
the
that
spot.
out.
We have so many. Like,
Yeah, it's
honest to God,
really
I can't
impressive.
keep up
Yeah.
because it's always change. Like I said, we're always doing just different stuff, especially like with the barrels. Like we'll take a pitch of Brett and just like we'll brew one big batch and then we'll break it into a bunch of different things, and
Yeah.
that was probably
That was probably, I think it was like a year
a
ago.
while.
At least a year, yeah.
See, too much is burned up upstairs a year from here. Good.
Especially this past year.
I shared.
My favorite Birdfish beer is probably Too Hip to Sip.
That's a
And
classic.
equally
yeah.
because I've like watched, because like I've been drinking at your tap room since it opened essentially,
Right.
but I've like got to watch that beer evolve and change, and it's like I know it's been, and then like there was a point where you guys like it was just consistent. I could have a Too Hip to Sip
You
at,
know what you're gonna get all
yeah,
the time.
I could have one at Village Pump, I could have one at your tap room, and it was like
It's the same.
it was
awesome
like you
beer.
guys
Yeah.
like this is consistent, this is like delicious, so yeah, I mean, that whole recipe formulation and
Yeah.
recipe like, and just watching like your buddies like dial in their processes enough that like it is consistent, like it's fun.
Yeah, so Too Hip to Sip is 7.5% hazy IPA that we do. So it's one of our, like, if you want to call it a flagship beer, it's one that we're, right now, we have 3 15-barrel fermenters filled with it, just because it's one that goes out to a lot of bars, restaurants, packaged product that a lot of people that, you know, try Birdfish for the first time, a lot of it is Too Hip to Sip. So
Yeah.
they're always coming in
It's
the
a great
tap
beer.
room. You know,
Delicious. Yeah.
times that we don't have it
Always
on tap
consistent.
is heartbreaking.
Everyone's like, come on.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man, it's like they just like freak out. It's like,
Yeah.
dude, we got like 13, 14 other beers on tap. Try one of those, maybe.
And then Jared goes back to a fermenter and pulls them out like
yeah,
a,
right.
Jared's like,
a little sample,
Yeah.
like here.
Yeah, don't tell anybody. Yeah.
Well, I gotta say, if you're about modern methods, I got 2.
Uh-oh.
Roast Beast, always great, and Floating in the Dark. Since you guys canned that
Yeah,
up,
we just got that canned up.
Yeah, delicious.
Yeah, Roast Beast is our American stout that we have year-round on the flagship. We have it on Nitro at the tap room, which is really popular. And so, like, pours kind of like a Guinness, like that creamy, like, you'll get like roasty chocolate. It's a really good beer. Actually won a bronze and a gold at the Ohio Craft Brewers Cup
Nice.
a couple years.
Yeah, that is good.
And then yeah, our Floating in the Dark is like a brewer favorite. One of those beers that like we brew for us. Like it doesn't sell really fast, but there are a lot of customers that like it, and they're like Floating in the Dark diehards. But like really, we brew it for us.
Yeah,
because
if
it's
you-
one of our favorites.
If you really want to like dive into like the brewers, like all they want to do is drink lagers all day and make beer.
Mm-hmm.
Just yeah. Can we brew like a 2%?
Yeah, 2%.
Like rye lager that we just drink all day?
Yeah. And Greg actually doesn't like any of our beers. We've got a
No.
blood feud. It's.
I'll just cut
I don't know how I've sat next to him this long, to be honest.
No, I like no, Roast Beast is good, and then what was it? Hop Fart.
Yeah, hot fart.
That's a hazy. That's a hazy. Yeah.
Easy
Good too.
IPA.
But that the West Coast that you just dropped off.
Oh yeah.
What's
Well, so that's Dub City. That's our Too Hip. That's like
Yeah.
our flagship
That was
West
good.
Coast IPA. And same idea. Like we've really tweaked that
Tweaked it,
recipe,
yeah.
and
Yeah, it was
that's why I was very excited. I brought like fresh cans over
yeah.
because I want my boys to taste
good.
it.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add?
Support local craft beer.
Yeah.
It's important. Like
I don't know, like, yeah, just try stuff out too. I mean, you know, I think we all we do our best to promote like a friendly environment for people that want to come in that, you know, like want to try craft beer. They, you know, we get a lot of people in every day that are just like, hey, like, I drink like Bud Light, whatever, you know. Like, that's fine. Like, hey, try this out. And just like, you know, we're always happy to talk to consumers, and we're always, I think all of us offer something for everybody across the board. So it's like, don't be, just come up, talk to us, hang out. We're more than happy to talk about beer. Obviously, It's been like 6 hours now you've been here? No.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Just come check us out, and happy to help out and hang out. So.
Yeah, and I think that's like Ira said, like, come up, talk to us. Like, that's one thing that I think you'll see that across the board in this industry is when you go in and you talk to whoever's brewing the product and you just start a conversation with them. Like, they could have like a boil over in the brew house and they will sit there and talk just because they're so passionate about the product. Like,
they will clean up later.
Anywhere you like, it's amazing to me. And like I love, my wife will tell you, I just talk all the time. But it is amazing. Like when you go other places and I don't say who that I brew beer or nothing like that. I just start conversations just because that's what I do, I guess. But like, you start talking to, the guy or the girl that's brewing it, and they're just, the passion behind of what we do really truly does come out. And the work it does take to put a product in a glass is, not everybody will ever realize what it does take, but, just, and to get through that is the passion, I think, behind it. So, I could be sitting behind a desk doing engineering work and
Making a lot more money, probably.
making more money and golfing every Friday, but here I am. So. Drinking with you fine guys.
Hey. Cheers.
Yeah, cheers.
And thanks to the Federal Frenzy crew. This has been an awesome experience. Thanks for including us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for joining
Appreciate
us.
it.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it. The Q&A with Penguin City Beer. Thank you, Federal Frenzy, for letting us be a part of Frenzy Vision, and look forward to seeing this.
Thank you.
Bye.